An insane, crazy colleague of mine is 100% convinced that allergies are not real, claiming that it only comes from people who are fussy eaters, and that anyone who claims to have a food allergy is only lying to look for attention. Things got so bad with this colleague that she would purposefully slip allergens into people's food without their knowledge, just so she can prove that allergies are not real. Here's what happened. In an office that I used to work in, I had a colleague who didn't believe that food allergies were real. As far as she was concerned, allergies were just excuses made up by fussy eaters. And for the sake of the story, we'll call this woman Sally. No matter what anyone said or what evidence was presented, she refused to believe that allergies of any kind were real. And she would like to prove this by purposefully slipping allergens into people's food without their knowledge. And Sally was proud of how many people she had called out by doing this. Nobody liked her, and nobody would take any food or drink that she made or even touched, even those of us without any allergies, which she absolutely just hated. And worst of all, she couldn't even understand why nobody trusted her. In fact, one time she tried to get the entire team in trouble with HR after everybody refused to eat any of the food that she had baked. Fast forward, and one day Sally stormed into the office and she was furious. It turned out that over the weekend at a family barbecue, she had tried to call out her sister-in-law by slipping peanuts into her food. But her sister-in-law was very allergic to peanuts. After eating the food Sally had poisoned, her sister-in-law went into severe anaphylaxis and had to be rushed to the hospital. She ranted and raved about the injustice of it all. She could not seem to understand why her family, and her brother especially, were all so incredibly angry with her. She refused to acknowledge that she had done anything wrong. In fact, as far as she was concerned, she was the real victim in this story. Sally tried to say that her sister-in-law was just trying to make her look bad and turn her family against her. So according to her, she went into life-threatening anaphylaxis to make her look bad. Then she insisted that no, her anaphylaxis must have been caused by something else, maybe food poisoning perhaps, or something that she had done earlier that day. It had nothing to do with slipping her a known allergen into her food, because remember, allergies are apparently not real. The scariest part was that at no point did Sally express any remorse or even concern for her sister-in-law's well-being, not even when she mentioned that her sister-in-law had almost passed away. Now, the next day and the following day, she didn't come to work, and a rumor spread through the office that Sally had been arrested. I don't know if that was true or not, as nothing was ever really confirmed, and management was super tight-lipped about anything to do with her. And as you can imagine, Sally did not have many friends in the office, and none of us were acquainted with her family, so none of us had the means to confirm literally anything. This was in the days before social media, so we had no way of finding out anything. A meeting was later called, where our manager told us that Sally would not be coming to work anytime soon, and that if anyone called asking about her, we were to forward them immediately to whichever manager was on duty, and to say nothing about Sally. Bob, one of my other coworkers, would look for news stories about her when he went for his morning paper, but he never saw anything. And for as long as I worked there, Sally never came back to work. And you know what? I have no idea what happened to her. But also, she wasn't exactly missed by anybody in the office. And I really hope her sister-in-law is okay. Years later, I tried to look Sally up on social media, but she has a super common first and last name, so lots of profiles came up, but unfortunately, none of them looked like her in the slightest. But regardless of what happened to Sally, I was truly happy that she never came back, because she literally was the worst person I ever had to deal with while I worked at the office. Okay, I'm gonna say a tongue twister real quick, but Sally sounds like an absolute psychopath. Say that 10 times fast. Seriously, who in their right mind would sit there and be like, ooh, allergies aren't real and I'm gonna prove it? And then she turns around and starts poisoning people's food just to try and prove some point that literally has no footing. Like, what are you talking about? Allergies are absolutely real, especially a peanut allergy. Like, that is so dangerous. And I only say that from experience because I have several family members who are allergic to peanuts, and they literally have to carry around an EpiPen just to make sure they don't expire right there on the spot if they eat something bad. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that Sally went to jail for this, because what she did to her sister-in-law is entirely malicious and intentional. There really is no good excuse for this. She knew that her sister-in-law was allergic to peanuts, and instead of just being like, oh, okay, let's not give her peanuts, she wanted to try and call her out and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna prove that you're faking it. But then here we go, she's going into anaphylaxis, her throat's closing up, and she literally can't breathe. Like, why would you even begin to play with that? If someone goes to me and says, hey, I'm really allergic to peanuts, I'm not going to assume they're a liar and then poison them. I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep all these peanuts away from you at all times. So yeah, Sally absolutely deserved to go to jail, and I really hope that is the final result of her story, even though we don't know the final outcome of what happened to her, because her actions could have taken out her sister-in-law permanently, and there's no good excuse for her behavior in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving my deadbeat father any of the inheritance money left to me by my grandfather? Because right now he is practically begging for this money, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my father in his late 50s left my mom when I was 3 years old, and this is also when my sister was just a newborn baby. Mom had many mental health problems after this, and we were instead raised by my grandfather and my grandma until she passed away when I was 7. Grandpa passed away last year, and I took over as legal guardian for my sister. Grandpa had nothing to do with my deadbeat father, although he was aware that deadbeat had married and fathered other children in the last 5 years, but it changed nothing for him because he did not look too kindly on a man who would abandon 2 children the way my father did. He literally left the country to evade child support and refused contact with his family for years. He also emptied out all of the money he and my mom had before he left us, so he left us with literally nothing. When Grandpa drew up his will, he looked into how he could leave my father with nothing, but that wasn't an option. However, he didn't need to leave him with more than a single dollar, and so that's what he did. And the portion that would have been my father's was divided between me and my sister, with him also leaving the house to my sister and I. My estranged father attempted to fight the will and get the share my sister and I own, but he was denied because my grandfather did everything above board. My father's siblings ended up back in contact with him after Grandpa died, and while they're not close like before, they have a relationship that my sister and I have no interest in being part of. So this is where the moral question comes into play. My father has a child who has a life-limiting medical condition. He and his wife are struggling to keep their heads above water with 4 young kids and not having a lot of money. He feels that I should give him my share of the inheritance for the sake of his kids, believing Grandpa was wrong not to think of them at all in his will, as he left nothing to my deadbeat's other children. I told him he wasn't getting anything from me, and then my father's siblings got involved, and they feel that I should give him my share, and that having the house and my sister having the money should be good enough, but I could do it as an act of kindness for other siblings I refuse to meet or even get to know. I have been under some intense pressure over this, and it's all driven by the illness and condition that one of his children has. I know that's the only reason my aunts and uncles are so bothered by it all. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. It is so ironic to me that the aunts and uncles are coming to you being like, come on, give your dad the money. Meanwhile, they said they're doing literally, as far as we know, nothing to help out this kid. Like seriously, put your money where your mouth is. If this kid really has a life-threatening illness, why not put your own money on the line and say, okay, I'm gonna help you out? Or even try and pick up the slack that the deadbeat father has clearly left out in the open. Like this guy's not gonna use any of that money on his kid. He just wants the money from his kid. You know, the kid that he walked out on. He has no other vested interest, in my opinion, towards the original poster. And in my opinion, I'm almost convinced that he would stop communication as soon as that check clears. So I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever give any kind of money to that guy, because I personally would not trust him, because this guy has an obvious track record of betraying your trust. And in my opinion, I just wouldn't want to get burned ever again. Am I the jerk for telling my brother not to blame our family or his wife's family for their regret with how they raised their kids? Because right now, they're claiming there's a hurtful divide in the family, despite the fact that they're the ones that caused it. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my brother and his wife got married about 6 years ago. They were 2 single parents who wanted to be married to each other, but the kids were not as into the idea as the adults. So they decided to live as a married couple with 2 separate families. My brother's kids were parented by my brother and my brother only, and his wife's kids were parented by his wife and only his wife. His kids interacted with our family, and her kids interacted with hers, with the kids only interacting with their biological siblings. They were not a blended family or even a family unit. It was very much 2 family units centered around a married couple. It was weird to members on both sides of their families, but it just was exactly what it was. Now, I always saw a time where they would regret it, especially if they ever wanted to change how things worked and the kids were against it, or where no love is developed for step relatives and we have no ongoing relationships with any of them. But I also knew it wasn't my place to interfere. Well, the day has come and regret has already sunk in. My brother's oldest graduated from high school a couple of weeks ago, and my parents told them that they had saved for each grandkid's future, and they now had access to money to pay for college or to get them started if they wanted to get like an apprenticeship or something like that. Now, of course, my brother's oldest was excited, but my brother and his wife not so much, because the money saved will be for each biological grandkid, but not for the wife's kids, and they do not have the same help and support from their biological grandparents. My brother and his wife told my parents that they can't give to some and not to all, but they said the stepkids are not part of our family and they're not their grandkids, and therefore they do not owe them any money. My brother attempted to talk to his kids about the money, and they said they don't care about his wife's kids or if they struggle or not, so they're just not going to worry about them. My brother and his wife are now pissed off with both of their families for the very clear and very hurtful divide in their family, but I told my brother that he has no business blaming us for the regret that he and his wife feel, especially when they're the ones that made the decisions that they did, and they now have the outcome that was honestly always inevitable. I told him that the kids all seem happy, so they should just get over it, and when I said that, he was very mad with me. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you didn't do anything wrong. This is literally your brother and his wife completely regretting all of their decisions. Like seriously, all of this falls on their back. You guys didn't do anything. They literally ostracized both sides of the family from each other, and then they're gonna sit there and be like, wow, there's a clear and very hurtful divide in the family, but there's only a divide because you guys caused that. Like seriously, why should the grandparents pay for kids that they just don't even know? That just doesn't make any sense, and there's just no reason for them to be obligated to do anything like that. So seriously, if there's any problems in that family, it falls on your brother and his wife, because you and the rest of the family did nothing wrong. Am I the jerk for not agreeing to walk my dad's fiance down the aisle? Because this lady has been aggressively asking me over and over again, and I'm now at my breaking point, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My dad is getting married in September, and a few months ago, his fiance asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. She's not close to her own family, and she has no kids of her own. My dad has me, and I'm 17 years old, and my two sisters who are 20 and 15 years old. Our mom passed away 8 years ago, so it was just us and dad before his fiance came into his life, and then ours. Now, I don't really like his fiance. I accepted that my dad does, but she comes across as kind of pushy to me and a little too possessive. She had this weird moment when my older sister moved all her stuff out of our house a few months ago, and she did that so she could take it to her own place. And this weird moment was over my sister asking my dad for photos of him and his mom's wedding, since my sister was asking if there were any spare copies around. But my dad's fiance was just upset that they were still in the house, and the fact that my sister wanted to take some. My younger sister and I got upset when all photos of our mom were taken down in the living room and in the dining room. My dad's fiance was upset about our reaction and said that we should want this to be comfortable for her. She doesn't like us calling her by her first name and tried to influence us into calling her Mammy. Now, we both knew that was another word for mom, so we just said no. But she said, oh, but it's not mom though. This can be a special thing for us that you can call me. Fast forward, and my older sister had a small surgery, and she asked dad if he would be able to come and stay with her and drive her back to her place, and dad said that he could try, and he would let her know if he couldn't do it. Well, his fiance told him that she'd do it if he couldn't, and my younger sister heard them talk about it, so she warned my older sister. So my older sister called back and said that if he couldn't, she would ask our grandma. Grandma ended up going with her, and dad's fiance got upset that she didn't want her there. Mother's Day was also awkward last year because she expected us to celebrate her. This year was doubly so because the expectation was still there. Now, I have talked to my dad about it, and I've told her as well, but nothing really changed, and she just got upset all over again. So when it comes to the point of this post, I said no to walking her down the aisle, and I continued saying no, and she just continues asking me. It's sort of the final few months, and she told me how much she wants me to do it because it shows me embracing her into the family and makes her feel supported by not just dad, but the other male in the family. But I told her I didn't want to do it. It's a big source of tension now. My sisters are on my side, and my dad has tried to compromise with her by them walking together, but it hasn't changed things. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to walk her down the aisle? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk by saying no to this lady, and the fact that she keeps asking you over and over again, almost like desperately at this point, in my opinion, is really weird and inappropriate. Your first answer should have been more than enough for this lady. She should have taken no for an answer right then and there, and that honestly should have been the end of it. And in my opinion, it is incredibly inappropriate for her to be pushing this hard for it. And here's the thing, she set herself up for failure years back by being so aggressive about everything. Like, she took down photos of your mom around the house and was like, oh wow, I can't believe her pictures are up. Like, seriously, that's so inappropriate and just uncalled for. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way she's acting is really weird, and if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be saying no as well. Am I the jerk for telling my brother's girlfriend that she isn't family after she insisted on going to my cousin's funeral? Here's what happened. I'm a 37-year-old female, and I have 2 children that live in my house with me. I am a single single mother and I'm juggling a job at the same time. My 2 daughters are 13 and 10 years old. My brother has told me that he's had trouble finding a house and getting money since he recently got a small job, but it just doesn't pay as much. And he asked me if he could stay in my house for the time being, and I agreed. I let my brother settle into one of our rooms that we don't use, and along with him, I see his pregnant girlfriend walking into my house as well. Now, I am stunned since my brother hadn't told me that he had a girlfriend at all, or even just tell me that she was pregnant. Even though it was strange for me, I allowed them to stay in my house. A few weeks pass by and his girlfriend starts to get rude towards me, and even my children tell me that they don't enjoy having her in the house. I told my children I would take care of it and had a talk with my brother when his girlfriend wasn't present, and he told me that she was probably having mood swings and said that I just needed to give her a break. So for some time, I did exactly that. Fast forward, and me and my children were getting prepared to go to my cousin's funeral, which my brother was not attending because he had work that day and he couldn't get the day off. But he said he would still send flowers to pay his respects. Now, I was fine with the idea. My kids were in the car and I went back inside to get my keys since I had left them on the counter. But right then and there, my brother's girlfriend stopped me and asked where I was going. So I responded by saying I'm going to my cousin's funeral. Well, she then got upset and told me that she should have been invited. And when she said that, it just completely threw me off. And I told her that she wasn't family, so there was no reason that she should have been invited. In fact, she didn't even know my cousin personally. She broke down in tears and I had absolutely no time for her. So I got my keys and attended the funeral with my children. Once we got back, it was late. So I had my kids bathe and go to sleep. And once I was heading to my room, my brother stopped me and tried to get me to admit that I was being rude to his girlfriend. But I just immediately shut him down. I told him that if his girlfriend was going to continue to act like she owns my house, then she wasn't going to live here anymore. So honestly, am I at fault in this situation? Because right now I am very frustrated with my brother's girlfriend and I am just about at my breaking point. No, this is a really weird situation and I just don't think you did anything wrong. For starters, I'm really surprised that you let your brother still move into your house, especially since he lied to you and snuck his girlfriend into your house. Like, I don't know about you, but that would really upset me. But also, the girlfriend's a complete jerk. She's treating you as well as your kids like garbage. She's making these weird demands all the time, and it doesn't sound like she's pulling her weight around the house at all. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for telling her, sorry, you can't go, you're not family. Because she literally is just that. She's not family, and there really is no reason for her to be showing up to that in the first place. And honestly, if your brother doesn't like the fact that his girlfriend is being rude, then he needs to step in and do something about it. Because I can imagine that her behavior is really starting to add some tension into the house. And if that was my place, I would absolutely not want to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for deleting my vlogger friend's footage without her permission after she did a house tour of my house without my permission? Because right now she is very upset, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I invited my friends over for a housewarming to celebrate me moving into my dream home. It's a place I've been saving and working super hard for, which is something that all of my friends are aware of, and everyone was happy to come over and celebrate the milestone. The issue is that one of my friends, who we will call Susie, is a very popular vlogger. She asked if she could film part of the party and include it in her day in the life video. Now, I'm super private, so at first I said no, but Susie promised that she wouldn't show anything personal and only wanted a couple of scenes of my friends laughing together and footage of the food spread. She also promised that I wouldn't be in the video. Now, I was still uncomfortable, but after she assured me that she wouldn't overshare, I said fine. The day of, within 10 minutes of the party starting, a mutual friend pulled me aside and said that she saw Susie filming her intro and mentioned that she was going to give a house tour of her friend's new home. She also said that she saw Susie filming the outside of my house from top to bottom, and it would be easy to tell the neighborhood that I lived in. During the entirety of the party, I noticed that Susie kept filming more than what she promised, so I confronted her about it. I asked to see the footage, and Susie said no, and acted super offended that I wouldn't trust her. I waited towards the end of the party, and when Susie was in the bathroom before leaving, I decided to just go through her camera. I was furious when I noticed that she filmed my entire house, even my bedroom and my closet, and there were tons of clips where you could clearly see my face. I am not kidding when I say that the footage looked like one of those house tour videos that realtors post online. Now, I can admit that I was acting on impulse and my anger at this moment, but I went ahead and just deleted all the footage of the party. Well, she found out shortly after when she went to shoot footage of everybody leaving, and then she confronted me. I did admit to doing it, and we had a bit of a row until I just kicked her out. Most of my friends are understanding and they are on my side, but they did say that I shouldn't have gone and deleted the footage myself. I personally felt like I did the nice way of asking Susie directly first, but she was being so so obstinate that I had no choice. The drama's been spreading now with mixed reactions, so I wanted another opinion in case I really was the jerk. What should I do? No, I don't really think you're the jerk, and I can agree with you that maybe you shouldn't have deleted the footage, but I honestly don't blame you for doing it in the first place. Because let's be honest, Susie was completely ignoring all of your boundaries. She basically said, oh yeah, I'm not gonna film anything that would give away your house, but then she turns around and says, oh yeah, let's give a house tour, while also showing outside shots of your house. That's insane to me, and that is incredibly inappropriate. If I was in the original poster shoes, I would also be upset. And the worst part about this is that Susie absolutely knew what she was doing. She knew that you didn't want your house filmed, but she went ahead and did it anyways. And sure, she probably could have edited things down to some degree, but at that point, the trust is already completely ruined. I would not trust her with anything that she filmed, even if she did say, oh yeah, I'm gonna edit you out. Because when you agreed to have her in your house filming your party, you agreed to very specific footage and very specific shots. Not an entire house tour. Come on, that is so over the line. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, because Susie, in my opinion, absolutely crossed the line. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.